In this video, I'm going to be showing you exactly how to sell on Amazon in 2025. Now, this is going to be the exact process that I've used to generate over £2.8 million worth of sales in just the last 2 years, which has netted me about 385 grand in the process, all through online arbitrage. Now, this isn't going to be a really basic video like some of the other ones on YouTube that just give you surface level information about Amazon FBA while providing little to no actual value. I'm going to be giving you step-by-step actionable advice that you can use to succeed on Amazon in 2025, including how to get started, how the actual online arbitrage business model works, how to source profitable products, and how to price your products and manage your inventory in order to maximize your sales and your profit. Make sure you watch until the end to get some really good advice on how I would scale and outsource my Amazon FBA business throughout 2025. And you can use these tips so that you can start making some real money on Amazon without the workload consuming your entire life. Now, just for context, I've made about 104 grand just in the last 3 months, working literally only 1 or 2 hours per day. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. So the first topic that I want to talk about is the amount of starter capital you need to get started with Amazon FBA in 2025. Now, I would say that the minimum amount of money that you want to be using to kind of get started with the business is about £1,000. I'd say any less than that, it's going to be really difficult with the cost of software and Amazon in general, with the fees, etc. It's just going to be really difficult. In terms of like your returns on that money, I'd say it's fairly realistic to expect about a 30% return every quarter on your money, which may not sound like a huge amount. I mean, if you start with £1,000, that's me saying that in 3 months time, you'll have made about £300 profit, but it's all about compound interest. It's the longer you keep that money in the business and not take any of that money out in terms of like your profits, the longer you keep it rolling over and you just keep buying more stock, the more that's going to add up. Based on like starting with £1,000, after year 1, you should end up with about 2.5 grand, which again, not a huge amount of money to be making, but from a side hustle that you only started with £1,000, I'd say that's a pretty good return, especially considering how fewer hours it really requires at those smaller stages when you're only working with a small bit of capital. Now, after year 2, you could be expecting about 6.5 grand if you just keep reinvesting all of your profits. By year 3, you can flip that into 16 grand. And by year 4, we're talking about at least £40,000 in total money within the business, all from £1,000 from when you get started, and by just keeping all that money turning over in the business again and again and again. Now, in terms of like what you should actually spend that money on, your main costs are going to be the Seller Central subscription. So that's the Amazon account that you actually have. Seller Central for a professional subscription, it's £25 per month. Next up is you're probably going to be spending about £30 a month on SellerAmp SaaS and Keeper. So these are essential pieces of software. I really couldn't do my jobs without it. I've touched on them more in other videos, especially in my free FBA course that just came out last week. So go check that out if you want to hear more detail about those pieces of software. But essentially, they're deal analysis software where you're able to make an informed purchase decision as to whether or not a deal is actually worth buying. So after that, you're looking at just shy of £60 a month in kind of running costs for the business in terms of just software. After that, I would say you want to be spending every penny spare that you have just on products. You just want to be buying as many products as possible. I'd say some common mistakes to avoid is just kind of going too deep on any one product when you first get started. You want to be going as wide as possible, buying as many different products as possible, because if you put too much money into one product and it goes wrong because you kind of made a mistake in the analysis, you don't want to be losing all that money. You want to just be buying a good variety of products, and that way you're able to kind of spread your risk and learn more about the whole game in general. I'd say some more common mistakes starting is when people try and kind of stretch their budget a little bit too much in terms of bringing on staff members, outsourcing to a prep center, spending a lot on expensive software. As long as you're willing to work really hard for at least 6 months, then you can start outsourcing bits of the business as you learn more about the process. But jumping into it straight away is just going to end up with you kind of falling flat on your feet, because realistically, you can't start outsourcing and telling someone else to do a job that you're not really familiar with yourself. Now, once you've got that initial capital allocated and you're ready to get started, the first thing you want to do is sign up to an Amazon Seller Central account. So just go to the website, sign up with all your details, put in your email, password, name, etc. All that kind of standard stuff that you do when you're signing up for an account like that. Amazon do often also require you to submit additional verification. So this could be that they ask you to submit your passport, a driver's license, utility bill, those kind of things that you would expect from a financial kind of related thing. Once you're actually set up with Amazon Seller Central, you want to be getting SellerAmp and you want to be getting Keeper. and you just want to be practicing those as much as possible. Just think of the whole thing when you're first getting started as you just learning the basics. You know, you're not straight away going to be making loads and loads and loads of money. You've got to learn all the basics first and start at the bottom, and then slowly work your way up to doing more advanced techniques. You also want to be using tools such as Honey, Cooper, Top Cashback, all of these brilliant sites that allow you to get even lower prices on all of the stock that you're going to be buying for your business. It's also not a bad idea to look at platforms like SalesGazer, which allow you to view a huge amount of promotions that are currently going on across loads and loads of different stores online. This means that you'll be able to keep up to date with any stores that are running promotions, any ones that are doing like clearance sales and stuff like that. Those sort of places are usually gold mines for Amazon FBA sellers, because there's going to be loads of products that are under retail price that you're then going to be able to sell back onto Amazon at retail price. And from then, it's just a case of identifying which ones there's already a good demand for on Amazon and buying them. It's also worth keeping in mind that you want to be thinking about whether you're going to be a sole trader or a limited company. I won't go into too much detail here about it, but essentially, if you've already got a decent paying 9 to 5, you might want to look up setting a limited company up just to have your business completely separate from your personal finances. It also offers a whole host of other advantages, such as having limited liability, hence the name, limited liability company. But it's worth just chatting to an accountant. If you do need any recommendations for an accountant, go have a look in the video description. I'll probably have a link to my accountants down there below, so you can go check them out. But it's important you try and chat to someone that actually knows about Amazon and knows how it works on the tax side, because if you're talking to just any old accountant that doesn't have a good experience with Amazon, there's a good chance you're going to end up paying more tax than you really should be, or they're just going to fudge your numbers up somehow. So yeah, now let's talk a little bit about the Amazon arbitrage business model and how exactly you go about analyzing and sourcing these products to sell on Amazon. So online arbitrage, which is the main business model that I do, is essentially where you're just buying products at discounted prices from retailers across the internet, usually through promotions, sales, or with coupon codes like I mentioned earlier. You're then just selling them back onto Amazon at the full retail price. You want to be using software like SellerAmp and Keeper to actually check the listing data, check how many units a month it sells, check what your competition is like, check the pricing history to know that, you know, it's a fairly stable price and it's not just going to tank in price the moment you join the listing. Now, the beauty of Amazon FBA is not only do you have all of Amazon's customers, so you don't need to spend any money marketing the products, you know, you're buying products that already sell really well and you've got loads of data behind them to show this. But you also don't have to deal with any of the fulfillment or the customer service or all the logistical side of things. With FBA, it stands for Fulfilled by Amazon, which means Amazon really do take care of almost everything. All you got to do is find the products cheap enough, pack them up in a box, stick a label on them, send them off to Amazon's fulfillment center in one big shipment, and they'll deal with the rest. They'll distribute your units across the country so that they're all available for next day delivery to the customer. They'll also deal with any delivery issues such as delayed shipments, lost items, etc. They'll also pay you out if they ever damage or lose any of your items, which can be a huge lifesaver, especially if you're selling more expensive products like electronics, like mainly what I do. And they really do just kind of make the whole thing a breeze. You know, there's nothing better than just sending products off in a box and just never seeing them again and getting paid for it. You know, it's just a super relaxed business model. And I don't have to worry about customers, you know, emailing me at 2 AM because their Hoover broke or something like that. It's just not my problem. So as for the actual sourcing methods involved that allow you to actually find these products, there's a few different mainstream ones that I can talk about in this video. So for example, there's manual sourcing. This is where you're just manually looking at a website, you're checking each product one by one against Amazon, you know, having a look at the data on Keeper and SellerAmp, determining whether it sells, determining whether it's profitable, and just repeating that step for every product on a site. There's also storefront sourcing. So this is probably one of the easiest methods to get started with as a beginner. It's essentially where you're just finding other arbitrage sellers that are doing the same business model as you. You're having a look at their store on Amazon, you're searching through all of the products in their store and just trying to find profitable products to sell that are still available at a retailer's website. You've also got Amazon to Amazon sourcing, which is where you're buying products from Amazon themselves when they're on discount. For example, there might be a laptop that's usually £100 and Amazon have it on sale for 50 or something like that. You're just buying it at that £50 price mark and selling it back on at the £100 price mark. You can also do what's called retail arbitrage, or RA. It's not something I do massively because I think it's quite hard to scale, but essentially it's where you're going to stores like Tesco, Asda, B&M, like physical retail stores in person, and you're just going in there with your phone using the SellerAmp app, you're scanning the barcodes on loads of different products, you're entering in the price they are in store, and then just having a look to see if they're worth buying at that price. And finally, there's Keeper Product Finder, which is where you're just using a feature of Keeper that allows you to filter out loads of different products on Amazon. You're having a look at loads of best-selling products, and then you're just trying to find suppliers for all of those products, just sort of similar to manual sourcing, where you just check in every single product in that list and trying to find suppliers for it. There are actually a whole host of other methods that I do know about. I actually know 12 different sourcing methods, but those are the only ones I can really disclose here on YouTube. The rest I just have to stay pretty tight-lipped about. It's all stuff that I share in my mentorship program, so all of my mentorship students know about these methods, but yeah, unfortunately guys, I can't just be giving that away for on YouTube for free because it is just too good, you know. It's my main source of income currently, so I can't really be spilling the beans on it just yet. Product sourcing is hands down the most important skill that you can have within this business. It's something that you really want to try and perfect, because at the end of the day, it all comes down to what products you're selling. If you're just selling shit, you're just not going to get very much profit out of it. You know, you want to be sourcing as well as possible and just buying high ROI, fast selling products. I would say that most sellers fail due to either just a general lack of sourcing knowledge, where maybe they just have been relying on a VA, like a virtual assistant, to try and do all their sourcing for them, and they're just not really, you know, they don't really have any clue how to actually do it for themselves, or they just have an over-reliance on one or two sourcing methods. Mainly, you know, if they're just doing stuff like storefront sourcing all the time and that's kind of the only sourcing they do, you're not going to find the highest quality deals doing that. You're not going to find the stuff that no one else is really finding. You're only going to end up joining listings that have loads of competition, prices are going to tank, and it's just going to result in you losing a lot of money. Last October, when I had my best month on record ever, when I made over £50,000 in profit in a single month, that was all from using a combination of 12 different sourcing methods, you know, including the mainstream ones, mainly just manual sourcing being the key mainstream one that I still use a lot of, but also just my secret sourcing techniques. If it wasn't for that, there's basically no way that I could be touching those sort of numbers just from doing online arbitrage. I'd have had to have been doing something else by this point. It's super, super important you're trying to figure out your own sort of methods to kind of get ahead of other people and just not follow the crowd. I think that's probably the worst thing you can do in Amazon. It's just copy what everyone else is doing, but too closely. I'd say in terms of like how low you should go for a deal and what your minimum should be in terms of sourcing, I would say that a minimum of 25% ROI is a pretty good place to start at, especially if you're just getting started and you haven't got the costs of a prep center and stuff like that. I'd say it is reasonably easy to be finding deals that are 25% ROI and above. You should also be looking at £2 profit per minimum per unit. You know, you don't want to be going too low on your margins because a small price change could really dramatically affect things. And I'd say also it's probably not worth joining any listings that are selling less than 10 to 20 units a month. If they're just selling very, very little, you're going to have a hard time making sales, especially as a new seller when you're fighting for the buy box. So next up, I want to talk a little bit about deal analysis. So firstly, I want to talk about SellerAmp, SaaS, and Keeper and what they are and why I keep talking about them in every single video I make. So SellerAmp SaaS is like the #1 piece of software that you need for your Amazon FBA business. It allows you to calculate the profit on listings based on your cost price. It shows you the competition on those listings, how many units a month that they think it sells, price history, and loads of other information that's just so key to make an informed purchase decision. Keeper, on the other hand, is more about the nitty-gritty data and about the actual price history in a lot more detail than SellerAmp SaaS. Now, some people have told me, oh, well, you can see the price history on SellerAmp, so you don't really need Keeper, but I would say this is not true. There's a lot more to Keeper than just the data with the price history. For instance, there's Keeper Deals that allows you to see price drops across Amazon, where you could be finding profitable deals to buy from Amazon to sell back onto Amazon. You've also got Product Finder, which is a whole sourcing method in its own. And you've just got so much key back-end data about all of these listings that it's just essential when you're going to be putting your own money into a product. You want as much data as possible to kind of make sure you're making an educated guess as to whether or not you can be able to flip that for a profit. And if you just don't have that data, you could just be wandering blindly into a product that is not going to make you any money. It could even make you a loss. Thankfully, these products are fairly cheap. You know, they're only about 15 quid a month each respectively. So they're very, very affordable. And I would say they're completely essential for any Amazon FBA seller, regardless of what business model you're doing. I'm not going to go into too much detail on those bits of software because, again, just last week I released a huge 1-hour course video that's completely for free and is available on my channel now, so go check that out from last week's uploads. In there, I'm going to be covering those software in a lot more detail, going through loads of different leads and how to actually kind of get started with it all. So yeah, go check that out. Now, just to give you guys a rough idea of how SellerAmp, SaaS, and Keeper work, I'm going to be showing you quickly a product that I would buy and a product that I wouldn't buy, and explaining a little bit of information information as to why I would and wouldn't buy that product. So first of all, we've got this PlayStation 4 game, this Demon Slayer game thing. So this was actually a deal that my VAs exported about a week ago now. At the time, the sale price was £40.65, which as you can see was really good profit and ROI. Now I rejected this deal and I didn't purchase it based on the keeper data and the price history. So at the time, this deal was going for, as I said, about £40. And though that would be great, you know, it's really good profit and ROI, it's well above my minimums, and as we can see, we've got that magical golden line, so we know this listing is definitely selling at least 50 units a month. I just thought this was an unrealistic sell price. Based on the price history here, you can see there's a lot of time when this listing has been a lot lower. I say the average price is about £30. At £30, I'm basically breaking even, so I just thought, you know, it's not something I really want to be putting money in. I think there's a very slim chance I'm going to be able to sell it for 40 quid. And sure enough, as you can see here, the price has actually dropped, exactly as I predicted. It has dropped down all the way to £26, which is actually a decent loss. You know, you're losing a couple quid per unit, which might not seem much, but you know, if this listing does sell 50, you might have bought 10, 20, 30 units of this. It could really start to add up if you've got a lot of units of this. So yeah, I didn't actually purchase this. I see a couple other FBA sellers who might have. Hopefully they've got a slightly better cost price than I did at the time. But yeah, not a good purchase for me. I would say that it's always super important to be checking out the price history chart on Keeper, as well as just other data on the listing. But yeah, that was just instant rejection for me. Next up, I've got this HP USB dock. So I've sold these so many times across a bunch of different listings. There's like 3 or 4 listings for these on Amazon. But this was an example of the product that I definitely would buy. So I got this cost price with a voucher code. I think it was from the HP website or somewhere like that. Profit is really good. ROI is also really good. Now there is an IP warning for HP, but between you and me, I've never actually had any issues with HP, so I'd say it's pretty safe to sell. And as you can see again, you've got that magical golden line that I love so dearly. And it's actually even better than that other listing, where the other listing, it had just appeared in December for Christmas, so it's probably a little bit of Christmas sales that spurred that 50 plus a month ranking. As you can see here, throughout the year, this sells really consistently, at least 100 units a month, if not 200. The price history is also super stable. I mean, even over the whole past year, I can't see any point where it's been unprofitable. It's at one of the kind of the lower prices at the moment, so I'd say that's a really good sign. I can also see down here, there's not a massive amount of competition. Got a few different people on the listing, but considering how much it sells and how little stock they have, most of these guys only have got 1 or 2 in stock. I say this is an absolute no-brainer purchase, and I will definitely be loading up on a whole bunch of these as soon as I finish recording this video. Now, I would say that good inventory management and pricing is just as important as sourcing and analysis in terms of running your business. You want to be making sure that all of your prices are in line with the market, that you're getting that buy box, and that you're just managing all of your aging inventory. So in terms of kind of what I determine a sell price to be on any item, I'm kind of looking at the price history, and I'm looking at my best case scenario based on the past 3 months, probably at the highest price it's been and still had the buy box. And I will sell at the highest buy box price in the past 3 months. At least I aim to sell at that. After that, I mainly just let my repricing software take over and do the thinking for me. Especially when you're selling hundreds and hundreds of different products like I am, it's just infeasible to kind of be managing the pricing of all of these items at the same time. So for the most part, I just let the software do its thing and decide what prices I'm selling at. And it's got predetermined rules that make sure that I don't end up selling anything at a loss unless it has been an extended amount of time where I've not been getting any sales. So in terms of Amazon, I think this is something that I've struggled a little bit with when I've been starting with Amazon compared to like previous businesses that I've had. It's that sometimes you just got to learn when to cut your losses. Not every product is going to turn out as well as you first expected. Sometimes it's going to be factors outside of your control. Sometimes it could just be that you missed something during your sourcing that you later realize is kind of a major issue with the product. I've definitely got a couple ones like that where I've just kind of been slightly half asleep reviewing the deal and missed an important detail, and I've now got to sell it at a break even or a loss. It happens to the best of us. It's just, you know, a reason why you should try and be as diligent as possible when you're kind of sourcing. In terms of how I have the repricer kind of manage my aging inventory, is I have it set up so that if anything has been sitting for 5 months and not getting any sales, it will then start to really undercut on that listing, it will really try and get any possible price for that item, even if I'm losing like half my money in the process, because at that point, that capital could be better invested into new stock that is then going to make me that money back. So though it is unfortunate that some stuff has to be sold at a loss, it's just part of the game. In general, I have my reprice just lowering stuff every 30 days. It will start with like a 20% minimum for the first couple weeks or so. After that, it will lower it down to 15 and 10 and 5 and so on over the span of about 5 months. Once it hit that 5 months mark, it will clear it even at like a 90% loss. It will just try and get it gone at any price possible, because at that point, it's just a waste of, potential having that money locked up in Amazon when you could just have sold that item for a small loss and then gone and bought something else that's going to make you that money back. Ascent Repricer is a really smart repricing tool that uses the founder's knowledge of being an Amazon seller for 4 or 5 years now. I think the guy that's making it has been doing Amazon, and he uses all that knowledge and all that data from their previous listings to kind of slowly raise prices across the board across all their listings and maximize profit as much as possible. Now Ascent costs about £85 a month, so it's definitely more expensive than the £35 a month for Seller Toolkit, but if I'm having a look right now at my computer, I can see in the past 31 days it has made me an extra £1,581 in additional profit, where it's getting sales above the buy box price. So I've made an extra 1.5k from a software that I pay 80 quid a month for. It's, it's a no-brainer that I would get that set up, versus Seller Toolkit that does cost slightly less, but I'm not making any additional profit. In fact, I'm losing money on all those listings and contributing to tanking, which is just not a good thing to do. So definitely check out Ascent once you get to the point where you want to start automating your pricing. And to wrap it up, I just want to talk about scaling and outsourcing within your Amazon FBA business. So in terms of scaling, the easiest way to do this is just keep all of your profits within the business and keep it compounding over and over and over again. Don't be tempted to go buy a flashy car or flashy watches or anything like that when you're first getting started. You need all the capital you can within your Amazon FBA business. The more money you can spend on stock, the more money you're going to make. So make sure you're keeping every single penny you can within the Amazon business so that you can just keep it folding over and over and making that 30% return each quarter. So in terms of outsourcing, there's 2 main ways that you can outsource the Amazon FBA business. The first one is by using a prep center. So a prep center is essentially another business where you send all of your Amazon FBA stock. They'll label it up for you, they'll pack it up, put it in a box and send it off to Amazon without you ever having to deal with any of the physical side or even see your stock. It's definitely a completely invaluable service to me. I couldn't run the business how I do with traveling all over the world and stuff without a prep center, because I'd have to be spending 12 hours a day packing boxes, and that is not really what I had in mind when I signed up to doing Amazon FBA. Prep centers also allow you to have a really scalable way of kind of managing the actual prep process, rather than having stuff like just sent to your house or even having to pay for rent on a business unit where you might be paying a couple grand a month in rent. You just get charged per unit, so I pay about 50p per item that I sell to have everything dealt with for me, and I just really couldn't recommend getting a prep center enough. Like, don't rush into it because you don't want to be adding those additional costs straight away. But if you live in like a top floor flat like I did when I first started with Amazon, it might not be a bad idea to look into it fairly soon after you get started and once you kind of are confident with the business model. And secondly, the other way of outsourcing is by hiring VAs. So VA stands for virtual assistant, and this is essentially where you're hiring someone in a place like the Philippines for a couple £100 a month, and they're doing a lot of the work for you. So this could be where you're outsourcing the actual sourcing the products, so they could be like manually sourcing, doing Keeper Product Finder, doing all those sort of methods for you. Or it could be where you've outsourced the admin side of things. So I have 2 admin VAs and 2 doing the sourcing. So the sourcing people just find me products that are already profitable to sell, so I don't really have to do any work on that side anymore. And the admin people are doing everything in terms of managing customer returns, making sure that every single unit actually arrives from wherever I'm buying it from. They're also just doing all the menial tasks like, I don't know, chasing up cashback that might have not tracked properly, adding all the min max prices to my repricer, just generally like keeping an eye on things and managing the business. So that at the end of the day, all I have to really do is spend about an hour a day just purchasing all of the deals that the sourcing team have found, having the final say on where the money gets spent, and just kind of checking in on everyone. But overall, it's a pretty non-time consuming business. I don't really have to do very much. Now with that said, Amazon FBA isn't a passive income. It takes a while to get to that sort of stage. I've been doing this for 2 years, and the first 6 months was really tricky, but you just got to stick with it. It's all about having time in the game and spending as much time and being as dedicated as possible to the business. With Amazon FBA, your success will always come from the actual inventory that you're buying. You need to be looking at high ROI, high profit, fast selling deals. And if you can focus on just sourcing those and finding lots and lots of products like that, that's where you're really gonna shine. So look, the information in this video genuinely has the power to change your life in 2025 if you're actually gonna apply yourself and become a successful Amazon FBA seller. Like I said at the beginning, I've made over 104 grand in just the last 3 months selling on Amazon, all using the techniques that I've got in this video, as well as a whole host of other ones that I keep secret. Now, I've also got mentorship students that are making upwards of £60,000 a month in profit, which is even more than I'm doing. Now, I really do hope that you got a lot of value out of this video. And at this point, I'd say that you have 2 different options. Now, if you want, you can definitely try and implement all of these methods on your own, learning through experience and trial and error, which is going to cost you both time and money, as you make all of the same mistakes that I and everyone else does when they're first figuring stuff out. Or you could get help from someone like me, who's sold over £2.8 million worth of stock in the past 2 years and has made over 385 grand, also on mastering the business model, and I've then taught other people the exact blueprint on how to do exactly the same as I have. Now, if you do decide that you want to learn directly from me and get access to 6 months of mentorship that includes a 6-hour video course, one-to-one calls, regular group coaching sessions, as well as access to exclusive product leads sourced by me and my sourcing team, I want you to go down to the video description and click the first link at the top, where you can book in a call with me, where we'll be able to talk about where you're at in your Amazon journey. So yeah, finally, drop a like on this video, and I really hope you got some value out of it. Make sure to subscribe to me for more Amazon FBA content, and definitely check out the free course that I uploaded last week, all about Amazon FBA, because that breaks down everything in this video in much more detail.